You're still watching TVC Breakfast. Now, women's reproductive health is a cornerstone of gender equality, public health, and human rights. Ensuring that every woman has access to safe, affordable reproductive care is essential to their anatomy and well-being. Reproductive choices are deeply personal and should remain in the hands of individuals, not always restricted by laws. Now, joining us in our Abuja studio for this conversation is Country Director.IPAS Nigeria HealthFoundation, Lucky Palmer. Good morning, sir. How are you doing?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Very well, thank
good.
you. Good morning, Nigeria.
Yes, it's very beautiful to have you on the show, and this is a very important topic. This is a topic that really interests me because I'm a woman, of course. And when we hear reproductive, a lot of women do not really understand it. We know that your foundation is doing a fantastic job with just telling women about their reproductive health. But I just want you to break it down for me this morning. When we speak about reproductive health for women, on our market women, how do we really explain this to them for them to even understand their bodies?
I think first of all, it should start from a very young age. Every woman should understand their body system, especially their reproductive system. And I think the basic fact is that everybody, not only women, everybody should have freedom on what happened to their body and what their body can do and cannot do. And also have the right to say when I want to have something to do with my body or not. But it's a bit more particular when you look at women, because it's only a woman for now that can get pregnant, for example, but that woman should be able to determine when she wants to get pregnant. She should not be forced to carry the pregnancy out of her wish. She should be able to determine when, where, and how many times she wants to get pregnant. Because pregnancy itself is a very risky journey, and that's why in Yoruba they will tell you when a woman just gives birth, because it's a journey that is tedious. So every woman has the right to determine when she wants to have a body. Every man should be able to say, you know what, you cannot touch my body. It's my body, it's my right, I can determine what to do with my body and not. So we need to provide education for our young girls. You have to start from small. It starts from menstrual period. How do you understand even the cycle as a woman? Because all that also impacts on your mood, your body system and all of that. I'm sure you can identify with a lot of that.
Yeah.
But basically, right now we're talking about should there be a law that regulates a woman's body when there is no law that regulates a man's body? I think that's where the conversation now becomes a bit more tedious and a bit more challenging, because the issue of individual morality now come into play. And some of us, either individual or group of us, want to impose our own morality, our own definition of morality on every woman in our society. And I think woman should not be singled out as the one to carry the burden of other people's morality in society.
It is quite interesting that you are a man and we are talking about women reproductive health, and somebody around the studio here just said, his wife is enjoying. That's just an aside. Let us go to the meat of the reason we're here. My question is, what are the most common reproductive health challenges that women face at different stages in life, and how can they be prevented or managed? Okay,
so one, as a young lady, as an adolescent going on, I think the 4 challenges you have to do with your menstrual period. When that starts, your body changes totally. The woman you begin to wonder what is happening to your body.
Yeah. And
that's where the counsel of the mother, the counsel of the counselors now come into be. Because and then from there on, it means that woman, that young girl had changed at least until she probably enter menopause. In terms of the way our body challenges her every month, and now she has to take up her body and react to that. And there's a huge gap around even providing education for adolescents on how to manage themselves on menstrual hygiene. And when you now move, and what does that mean? That also means that woman, that young girl, that adolescent, now can become pregnant. And then the question is, there are different challenges when it comes to pregnancy. There are different challenges in terms of the future that every young girl wants to aspire for herself. So the 4 challenges around menstrual cycle, educating them about that, and not telling them, you know what, now your cycle have started, you can't become pregnant. You now have nothing to do. For me, as a young girl, I want to become a doctor. So I don't want to have children maybe until I'm 21 or until I'm 25 or until I'm 30. It's a choice. So we need now begin to talk about how do you access contraception, which is meant for you to space your children or pregnancy you want to have. Maybe before I get to that, unfortunately, this is a very early morning show. Maybe I can't go into too much detail, but at adolescent level, the moment you start having menstrual cycle, you're going to become sexually active, whether I want to agree to that or not. Your hormones, your system is triggered, and you are interested. The interest does come to you naturally. But then how you control it now have to do with the issue of giving the children the life skills that we'll talk about, letting them to make the right choices at every point in time. But then as we now move further on, like they tell us those days growing up, I tell our sisters, if a man touches you now, you become pregnant. But that is not the true fact. We need to educate that girl child on what to do, what to expect, and how to prevent it. And one of the areas to prevent pregnancy is using contraception. I think one of the crises we have in our country right now is the impact of unsafe abortion on the women of our country. Nigeria has one of the highest maternal mortality in the world, and a critical contribution to that has to do with unsafe abortion.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Girls,
Thank you so much, Mr. Lucky. That brings me to my next question. Now, unfortunately, we still live in a society where even discussing women's reproductive health on a breakfast show such as this is still very controversial. There is still so much shame that surrounds women's reproductive health. And so it brings me to my next question. We know that in Nigeria, abortions are still a criminal offense, which means that even if a woman is raped, even if it's incest, even if they found fetal abnormality in the pregnancy, it is still a criminal offense and she could face imprisonment. Even the person that assisted her in this procedure could also face possible jail time. How is IPAS working within this legal framework to improve women's reproductive health and to also offer them safe, access to these services without breaking the law per se? Because like you said, so many women are needlessly losing their lives due to unsafe abortions.
Thank you. I mean, it's an interesting question. So my perspective is always to say that, first of all, abortion is an health care if it's provided by the right trained providers, a doctor, a nurse, or midwife. Second of all, our law currently says that a woman whose life is at risk is entitled to have abortion. If you have an ectopic pregnancy, for example, you are entitled to abortion. However, most of the unwanted pregnancy we have in our society are product of rape and incest. I'm not sure that you're aware, there was a girl of about 15, 16 years that was delivered by emergency cesarean operation by UCH in Ibadan of a baby, I think about 3 months ago. She was raped by her father, and then she was forced to carry that pregnancy. I think the father is in jail or so. Now she's delivered of a baby. What happened to her? What happened to the baby that has been born? The stigma that will follow both of them for the rest of their life. That's one side. So the question is, our law is very clear right now. If a woman is raped, you have to carry that, and you're pregnant, the law say you must give birth to that child. That's what the law says. But then the question is, we have in some society where deliberately people actually kidnap ladies, adolescents, to rape them, get them pregnant, and then that truncates that girl child for the rest of her life. I also have cases where I'm your friend, boyfriend, girlfriend, which is normal, and for whatever reason the girl becomes pregnant. She doesn't want the pregnancy, but the law says she must carry the pregnancy. Her education is truncated. She can't go back to school because she's pregnant. She will not be accepted in school. The stigma that goes with it. But the young boy continues her education. She might even end up not marrying the girl. He becomes a medical doctor. And then the young girl becomes a pepper seller by the roadside or a granite seller by the roadside. So in terms of equality, one way that we've disenfranchise the female gender in our society is by getting them pregnant. And I'm sure, remember those who say, well, if I get you pregnant now, you could sit down for house. You can't go anywhere again. Because so it becomes a form of punishment.
Yes.
Because you are a woman, I think you should just have baby. Women are not baby machines.
That's right.
And if you look at the example of the Asian tigers, they'll be able to maximize the productive capacity of that society by engaging women effectively in education and all the sector of the economy. And that's why they have thrived. That's why they left us behind 20 years ago. When we were it might be the 70s, Nigeria was ahead of them. But we couldn't maximize the productive capacity of our population, half of our population, just because people have some different morality. And unfortunately, Nigeria right now, we have the highest number of maternal deaths worldwide.
That's right.
In terms of number.
That's right.
In terms of statistics, I think we're about the second or third. But if you look at countries like Ethiopia, where in 20 years ago, we used to compete who has the worst maternal mortality.
That's right. Allow me to jump in.
20 years ago.
Right.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so talking about maternal mortality, I think we will have about 73,000, with Nigeria, 29%, on the global scale. But now, I want us to expand this conversation to the issue of the conspiracy theory that has been flying around within Africa, even outside of the country, because you see on social media, people reacting to maternal death and then female fertilization, reproductive health, because we've had Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, or let's say Bill Gates Foundation now, as it is called, the Rockefeller Foundation, and so on and so forth, have actually poured billions of dollars into maternal health care, vaccination, etc., etc. But some people are alleging conspiracy that their intention is to reduce the population of the world. And that because if you go to Kenya, what is going on in Kenya? Kenya is taking some laws and other issues. So I wanted to speak to this issue. Are these health partners, are these international giants helping us in terms of reproductive health, vaccination, etc., or it has some underlying tone, the underlying agenda that the world are not really waking up to, or they are just waking up to now?
There is no conspiracy theories in whatever they are doing. I think whatever they are doing is out of the genuineness of humanity and human kindness of their heart. So when we talk about maternal mortality, it is not their children or their sisters or their mothers that are dying because we can't provide some things in our society. And again, let me go back to if you look at other countries that have reduced their maternal mortality, they went through this process that we are trying to also do in Africa.
Sorry, the question does not border on maternal mortality. It's talking about reproductive health, fertilization, that some have been rendered infertile because of some of the vaccines they've taken from some of these foundations.
I think that is not been proven scientifically. That has not been proven scientifically. I mean, in this sector, I've been in this field now for about 20 years, and we have seen people who have used contraception, for example, for 5 years, and after 5 years, they say, now I want to get pregnant. They remove it, and within 2 months, they're pregnant. And we have also seen people who have never used contraception in their life, who are struggling with pregnancy. They've never used contraception in their life, but yet they are struggling with pregnancy. So it has no correlation. So, because you use contraception, then you become infertile. No. I think people try to whip up. It's almost like saying that 5G is meant to kill us. I'm sure you are aware of that conspiracy. That even some religious leader even talked about it. But now 5G is everywhere, and yet we are still alive. Nobody have died because of 5G. Okay, and people are talking about 6G again, the next gen. So people will always have a way to come up with theories to satisfy their own morality or their own conscience, because they have an agenda that they want to push forward. So contraception and infertility are not linked. There are people, scientifically proven, who have never used contraception and yet are struggling with fertility. Okay, right. So yes, it's possible maybe out of 1 million women who have used contraception, maybe you have 2 or 3 who might find it difficult to return to fertility. But out of other 1 million women who have never used contraception, you will find more than 10% of them that will struggle with fertility. So it has nothing to do with the contraception that has been provided. It has nothing to do with vaccine that has been provided. Vaccine has done more good to humanity than bad. Before the advent of vaccine, what is the population, what is the annual death rate of children, infant death rate in Africa? I mean, so people need to go and look at it. Before vaccine was introduced, what is the infant mortality rate? And what is the infant mortality rate today? You know, before we used to have what you call abiku, the way the Yoruba will call it. Abiku, right?
Yeah, abiku.
How many are we still experiencing abiku? Is abiku still very common within the Western states of Nigeria?
But talking about
because vaccine has prevented those deaths.
Yeah, talking about vaccine.
Vaccine has prevented some of those deaths.
There are some videos that are recently resurfacing regarding Donald Trump, for instance, saying I've forgotten the vaccine that they give to maybe 1-year-old kid. I think it's MM something. I can't remember. Saying that it actually contains MMR contains mercury and lead and some of the substance that should not be there. That what do they need it for? So these are some of the challenges. These are some of the problems that people are pointing at. When they emphasize on this conspiracy theory.
I think without talking about individual, I think it's best if you're talking about science. Scientists should talk about science.
Exactly.
I do not expect, for example, for my pastor to be telling me that this is how you have to separate the conjoined twins.
Yeah.
Because that is not his field or our field.
All right.
So I think we should rather, I would say, let's speak with what science have shown us with evidence than just people who have a platform to talk about what is not proven really.
All right, moving away from vaccines, let's go back to reproductive health. And, you mentioned something, but in rural areas, we still see parents, that are pushing their children to early marriages, young children. The other time we reported it where a girl had to kill herself because, they pushed her to marry somebody that was way older than her. And when they marry these people, at the end of the day, they're expecting you to have children. So I want you to touch on that for me. How far are you going to educate people in the rural areas? And my colleague also mentioned something really beautiful, talking about abortion. Because that's something that, we say that it's illegal, you cannot do it. But then we see people dying because, the pregnancy is a pregnancy that is not good for them to carry, but they do not want to remove it. Also, there was a case of a girl that was raped. She got pregnant and she didn't want to keep it. And I don't know if they will castigate me for this, but I think that if she doesn't want to keep it, then she doesn't want to keep it. But then the law is saying that she should not remove it. So just quickly touch on these things for me.
All right, maybe I'll start with the last one. I think one is the fact that there is no woman that is happy to go through an abortion process. It is because of the situation they find themselves. And like I've said, I've been a victim of kidnapping before, so I understand the trauma that you go through when you are kidnapped. So if you are kidnapped, and then in fact, maybe in my experience a lady among us, they tried to rape her several times, but unfortunately for them, she started her menstrual cycle. And for the 4 days that we were there, they keep coming to ask her, has it stopped? Has it stopped? Has it stopped? So imagine that lady was raped, and then she found herself pregnant. We now say she should carry that child. That's like double jeopardy.
Yeah.
So that's why we are saying our legislature needs to look at our law and ensure that a woman who has been raped should have access to safe termination of that pregnancy. Because that is a pregnancy of shame and trauma that she will live for her life with. Currently, on the case of child marriage, I think right now in about 34 states, not 34 states, about 30 states of the Federation through the VAP Act, Violent Against Person Prohibition Act, child marriage is prohibited. Also, the Child Act also prohibits child marriage in Nigeria. So for us, it's about creating that awareness to people that child marriages is wrong. And community, we need to go back to our communal ways of living. Community needs to begin to speak on behalf of children that are being married off. I think there was a case recently that was reported in Ikiti where community stopped a child marriage because they felt the child was too small to an old man.
Yeah.
That is what we need to stop. The law is there, the VAP law is there, but community member needs to speak up because for marriages to happen in Nigeria, it's communal. Community members are invited. People go there to go and sit down and eat and see a child being married off and keep quiet.
All right.
And in fact, the law in most states, the VAP law says if you are aware and you don't speak out, you are also guilty.
Yeah.
So anybody who participated in a child marriage or child wedding ceremony is also guilty and can be prosecuted in court. But people are not just aware of it. But that is what the law says in most of the states. If you know that violence against a child or against person is being prohibited and you do not speak out or report, you are liable and you could be prosecuted. So if I attend a child wedding, I am liable and I can't be prosecuted. And that's why I was saying that our law, we need to begin to, it brings me back to what is currently going on in the National Assembly, the genuineness of the National Assembly to actually review some of the criminal code. One of it is the law, is the section 230 that talk about the issue of abortion. And so we need to actually engage with them to understand the languages that are being used can actually jeopardize the health of Nigerians. They talk about miscarriage of a woman. Most miscarriages are normal. Sometimes it's the way the nature itself try to flush out a fetus that cannot sustain life. But sometimes, even if you take some kind of herbs, it could trigger miscarriage.
Okay.
If you take, for some women, ordinary Panadol could trigger miscarriage. Are you saying the doctor who have provided that Panadol to that woman because she's in pain and she has a miscarriage and she's guilty of a felony?
Exactly.
So we need to engage with nationals to understand that the wording, the language that are being used could pull the health of Nigerians back. Because if the law, the way it is now, proposed now, is allowed to pass, it means that women who are pregnant or suspected to be pregnant, no doctor wants to treat them.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mr. Lucky. We can have this conversation over and over again. Thank you for joining us on the show this morning. We really, really appreciate your time, and thank you for enlightening us on some of the things that we didn't know about.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
All right. So after the break, we will take a closer look at President Tinubu's cabinet, measuring how well they have lived up to expectations. Don't go anywhere. Stay with us.